Hello, welcome to this bit of a new thing. I'm looking up there because that's where my screen is. Welcome to Top Paranormal. My name is Mike. Mike makes films. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm a filmmaker and I am going to react to ghosts caught on camera from YouTube. So I've just grabbed a few clips off YouTube and we're going to watch them together, and I'm going to hopefully debunk the shit out of them. So let's just get on with it. The first one, you'll recognise if you are one of the two people who subscribed to this channel when I set it up years ago. This is the first video on there, and this is a ghost screaming in a hotel room. So let's just dive in.
What room is that?
It has been edited.
It should be 209. John, do you copy?
So there's a
It's room
cut.
209. Amy says nobody's checked into that room, and there's reports of screaming coming from that room. Amy, he's on his way down there right now.
See, straight off, camera position. If these are security cameras, these both seem like they're in weird positions. So I know a lot of people kind of talk about the shake in the elevator to start with. That could elevator shake. That could be quite genuine. I don't believe it is, but you know. But like this is a weird camera angle. This feels like a GoPro that's just been stuck up. Like this dude who's walking down the corridor now has gone round and just stuck up a load of GoPros, or even one GoPro, and just moved it from location to location. Part of the reason why I think that as well is the graphics. Some of the graphics seem really deteriorated, so as if they are kind of old school video, and then part of them feel like they've been placed on top and had degenerative filters placed over. Like Final Cut Pro has got jitter and all sorts of stuff that you can just layer on top of this stuff and make it look like a CRT TV screen. But let's carry on. Like, where are we hearing that scream through? Is that the caller on the phone? We can hear that. Is that this dude in shot? Is that his radio? In which case, is his radio always on? Because I don't think security cameras have microphones, especially, cheap and nasty ones in hotels. Yeah.
What's going on, John?
The other thing as well is that like that dude talking into the microphone. Like, if I can hear the guy in the control room, I should be able to hear that dude. That should, if you are a security person, there should be an ability for you to record those two tracks. It happens every time I ring my bank, so why can't these guys do it?
There's no one checked into that room. There should be nobody in there. Wait 1 second, John. Amy, are you there? Yeah, John says he hears the screaming coming from that room. And I hear it too. But we're sure that no one's checked into that room, correct? John, just wait.
Why are they showing me a swimming pool, the entrance and a stairwell? Weird.
To get a hold of the police, so I would wait for the police, John.
There was an edit there. You could see his arm kind of jumped up.
Amy, John's gonna enter the room real quick just to check, make sure, see what's going on.
Also, like, what's he wearing? If he's a security guard, why isn't he in some sort of uniform? If he's a maintenance guy, why isn't he in overalls? Why is he just wearing like jeans and a jacket and a baseball cap? That's exactly what I'm wearing, and I'm at home. Right, straight off, you'll see it again. But that is so simple to do. That is literally just a dude in a sheet from the same camera angle. They've not moved the camera. They've just filmed that bit at the end, lowered the opacity and dropped it over the top.
John?
Again, because they haven't moved the camera, they're able to run around, and like the guy who's just gone into the room, John, he could run down the end of the corridor and flick the light switches, run back, and it's all just cut together. Especially, you can hide the cuts as well really, really simply because of the grain they've added over the top. So that will, you're looking at the door as the audience, because that's what your focus is, because that's where the ghost has just come out. So you're not going to notice anything else kind of moving and jumping on a cut.
Are you there? Okay, Amy, John wants you to call the police right now if you don't mind.
Right, so Amy's got to call the police. She's a guest in the hotel. Why the security team don't do that? Surely they would have the resource to do that. There should be a big red button that just call the police.
He says no one's in there, but that all of the furniture's been turned upside down and the hold on.
And he was just on his radio then, but you never heard that.
He says the carpet's been ripped up and
He's not talking. He went rah for about 4 seconds, and he's supposed to have said all the furniture's turned upside down, the carpet's been ripped up, and he's going to say in a second the shower's on.
shower is on, but nobody's in there. Man, that's
Cut. Let me just scroll back.
on, but nobody's in there.
So he was standing still, about to move, and then you pick him up on this camera, and he's already walking down the corridor. So the whole thing of this hasn't been edited is nonsense.
Man, that's scary.
Because that's one thing with editing, is edit on action. So if somebody's turning, and you've got 2 camera shots covering that turn, you pick a point within that turn to make your edit. Because then your audience uses that subconsciously to latch onto with the new cut, and so they can follow the story. If you edit before the turn, like they've done, like he was standing still, turned, and then walked down the corridor, and they picked him up as he's already walking down the corridor, your audience is thrown by that. Because they're like, how's he moved? Is he a ghost? He's the ghost. That's exactly it. He's the fucking ghost.
I'm officially freaked out now.
Right, so here's the dude in a sheet again. It's 100% just a layer with the opacity dropped. There we go. Cut back to me. So you get the idea. This is what we're going to do, is we're going to look at ghost videos. I'm going to talk over the top and hopefully pull them to pieces, which is weird because I'm fascinated by ghosts. The paranormal and all those kind of things absolutely fascinate me. I love anything to do with it. I've read all sorts of books on demonology. I'm a big fan of the TV show Most Haunted. Next one is from the Daily Mail. Well, let's dive in. So this is A Lady Asleep. So this is Paranormal Activity, the film which cost about £5, and I think still holds the record for the largest profit ever made on a motion picture. So there we have a door with a dude stood hinge side, and he's just tipped that with his fingers. That is a fishing wire. That's a moth. Right, there's a lot to unpack in that first couple of seconds. Let's go back. So here, so hiding on the left hand side as you look at it, the door, there has to be a dude. And literally just tipped the door open with fingertips and just ducked back behind. It does pick up a slight bit of momentum again. Now, whether that is somebody off camera with fishing wire, which they could run round the back of the headboard, and is possibly kind of bottom left of the screen, which would make sense because that's the direction in which the duvet eventually goes. Fishing wire is notorious for these kind of things because it is see-through. Essentially, it's transparent. It's very fine. So on a camera such as this, on a DSLR which records in high definition, you won't see it. You may see it on Blackmagic's new 12K camera. I don't know, but it's all to do with, probably not, because it's all to do with how light is accepted by the lens and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're not going to see fishing wire, and I suspect a lot of this is fishing wire. So duvet's starting to move. Now, is that her leg? Is she felt the tug and then on cue kind of moved her leg? No, that's full on. There's fishing wire located on a couple of points and they're just pulling it. And then just as you see going left, what a lot of people will call orbs, when you see on these shows, oh, there's an orb. Most Haunted used to, they made a fortune off the back of orbs. Orbs are very simply explained because if you have ever looked at, especially in the last kind of 10 years, kind of indie filmmakers especially, stuff like La La Land and all that kind of stuff, there's the scene in La La Land where they're standing out on that, looking out over Los Angeles, and they have the little dance. I'm not going to recreate it, it's sat in my office, but you get the idea. They have the little dance, and the city, all the lights look like circles, so you can see just circles of light all over the place. That's called bokeh. So that's something which filmmakers look to achieve with what's known as a shallow depth of field. So a shallow depth of field is the 2 points in which an item is in focus. So this side is closest to camera, this side is furthest away, and your subject is in the middle, and then everything behind them is out of focus. Now the light from the out of focus things takes the shape of the iris, which is the part of the camera which opens and closes. It's the shutter, essentially, when you take a photograph. And in cinema, it's kept open at a particular size to let more or less light in. And it's a mechanical thing. And it will take the shape of that. So you'll sometimes see them hexagonal, you'll sometimes see them round, you'll sometimes see them all kinds of, elliptical if you're using anamorphic lenses. So you'll look at the old Spielberg lens flares where they're very linear, because it takes that oval shape. Whenever an insect is beyond that shallow depth of field, if it's kind of here or it's there, it's so small and it's light, the light reflecting off it takes the shape of the bokeh. Yeah? Does that make sense? Because that's exactly what happens. And it's the same with dust particles. And so that's why they all look spherical. Yeah? And people go, oh, that's an orb, that's grandma. No, it isn't. It's dust, it's a fly, it's a moth, it's something like that. That's 99.99% of the time, that's what it is. Good. Are we all on the same page? So I don't know who she was waving at then. Oh, it's a light switch. Right. Who has got a full spectrum camera in their bedroom while they sleep? What's she hoping to achieve? Or her husband? Or wife hoping to achieve by filming her as she sleeps with a full spectrum camera? And you can tell it's full spectrum because when she turned the light on, there was a short period where it was purple, and that is essentially, if any camera you own will have an infrared filter on it which blocks out infrared light, and if you remove that, it becomes full spectrum. So the full spectrum of light. So we can only see this amount of light, and the spectrum goes on and on. and the sensors inside digital cameras can see that entire spectrum. And if you remove that infrared filter, everything comes in, and everything looks like purple. So you'll have seen for a second then everything was purple, and that is the camera shifting between daylight mode, infrared, nighttime, bokeh again. Laughter there for a second. I'm sure I had somebody laugh. Now where's she going? Again, there's a microphone on this camera. So if this is a security camera, why would it have a microphone on it? This is a GoPro with the infrared filter taken out. Like this. This is a very cheap from wish.com camera. They're about 10 quid. And you'll see things like this on a lot of the ghost hunting channels because they're very easy to purchase, they're very cheap, and you essentially pop that yellow part off, and behind that there's a little infrared thing. You take it off and you've then got a full spectrum camera, a night vision camera, which if you were to buy one, and it's 4K, and if you were to buy like an infrared camera from somewhere, it'll cost you an arm and a leg. So yeah, that's what he's filming these guys. Pretty sure there was an edit there. So look, kind of leaning forward a little bit. Let's just move on. That's a jump, can you see? And they've done it on the action, but there's a couple of frames missing, so there should be a portion where her head seems to jump down and to the right. This isn't JFK. Hey, hands up if you got that reference. And you're not 15. So yeah, there's an edit there. Seeing if, like, what's the pillow doing? See the purple then? But why has she got a pillow like halfway down a bed? More bokeh. The bokeh tends to be, you'll see that in front of that cabinet because it's a dark area. I'm watching for the duvet just to see if there's any indication of those. There's another fly just gone up screen. And then on the wall there, something seemed to be flashing. That could be a reflection of something. So there we go. That's the Daily Mail. So yeah, that's literally just fishing wire and a moth and a cheap knockoff GoPro nonsense. This one, genuinely, there's a couple of things in this I don't know how they've done it. I've got a guess, but this is in a school and this is a corridor. So yeah, let's jump into this. Straight away, camera position. Yeah. So if you look just below the L of please like and subscribe, which I would like you to do, it really would help me out. If you look just below there, there's a security camera, and you see how high that is. You can see the top of the picture frames, which our camera, what we're looking through, seems to be in line with. And if you follow that line down, there's a good meter between the tops of those frames and that camera up there. So we know for a start, this is a camera on a tripod. This feels about as high as a reasonably decent tripod would go. Something which a school media department may have, like a photography tripod with the extending middle bit. The other thing as well is The lettering top left looks very crisp. There's a little bit of opacity on it because you can see some of the stuff on the wall through it. But essentially I think they've just put a wide angle lens on a DSLR, stuck it on a tripod and pointed it vaguely down the corridor. Let's see where this goes. Right, so that's simply somebody stood behind the door who's opened it and then just allowed it to shut, and it's made a proper clang. Because that's so dark up in that corner, you could literally stick a dude in a dark hoodie, hide behind the door and just fling the door open, and you probably, at this resolution, because they've obviously shot it in whatever resolution the camera's in, which I would suspect is HD, and they've just downed it. Because when I downloaded this one, it was about 480p, which is the number of pixels, whereas 1080 is 1080. This is 600 less, so there's a lot less detail. So yeah, easy. Okay. This is interesting because this is the thing. This took me a second to work out. I don't mean that as a boast. I mean it took me more than one viewing to kind of figure out how they did this. Let's just watch the rest of it. Okay, so that I've seen on a few other ones. There's an office block in Manchester where a door handle rattles, and 11 o'clock at night in your lounge on your own, your heart rate starts to go because you're like, oh shit, that's a bit scary. Same with this. It's that kind of thing of, it's an everyday noise in an everyday location, but it's dark, and you're alone, and that would freak you out. But if you look at the position of where that locker is, it's right in front of a window, which, if this is an American school, which I suspect it may be, may not be. No, looking at that wet floor sign, it might be a UK one. Anyway, where that window is, there's a recess. So that's either a floor to ceiling window, which many schools have. I worked in a school and they had many floor to ceiling windows in classrooms and stuff. It's just a thing what architects like to do in the 80s. So somebody could be crouched there, short Jimmy. There's always one kid in there who's yet to achieve full growth spurt, and still looks about 10 when all his mates are 15 and 6 foot. Short Jimmy, hide behind there and push, or it's somebody in the classroom with a window. What made me think it was an American one is it would be a sachet window where you lift them up, so then it wouldn't open outwards, or have to open on a thing and be stuck, essentially. It could open inwards. We could just be seeing the outer frame and it could just be open all the way in, but that's somebody just stood behind it rocking it. Come on. Right. So that could be wee Jimmy throwing a book sideways on, so it's coming across the front of that door, and that door's possibly just a little bit ajar, and he's thrown the book there and he's caught the door, opened the door, and the books have spilled out. Or there is somebody just looking at the direction of where the books came. The books came towards the camera. Let me just go back a little bit and have a look at that. Yeah. So there's a book there which comes towards the camera. So again, that could be fishing wire running to somebody who stood behind the tripod and they've just yanked it. I don't know what that ticking is. Fishing wire. Simple. That's 100% fishing wire. The way that it's spun, they've literally just, they've been clever. This is a really well done one because they've not gone for, let me just go back to me. They've not just tied it to the front of things. They've thought about the direction in which things travel. So the books coming out, so it's as if they're coming in. So it's not the door opening, it's the books coming through the locker which have pushed the door open. And same with the sign. They've tied the fishing wire to the back of it, so it flips round essentially to the back of it, and it's possibly even coming over the top, so it's kind of coming like that and basically spinning on its, is that the Y or the Z axis, whichever. I'm not very good at Blender. So it's spinning like that, so it's coming over the top of itself, rather than just tying to the front and just pulling it over. So yeah, so kudos to those kids. Wee Jimmy, I hope you got out okay. And the last one, there's loads of these, but this is the first one I saw. So let's have a look at this. Ghost attack caught on security cam. Let's see if it really is a security cam or a GoPro. GoPro. That's not a security camera. No way. It's almost funny. Now, the shape that is emerging, I like how it's very similar in tone to the shadows cast on the walls. That feels like there's been a little bit of attention given to it. Now, on the back of his jacket, you can see that kind of loss of detail and information there, and you're getting that noisy kind of dark splodges. Now, whether that's on purpose by the creators of this, or whether that's just because it's been, filmed off a screen, or it's been compressed on YouTube or something like that, I don't know. But that gives it that security camera footage kind of look. But the thing which, so like now, like where is it, because we've zoomed in? I think we've cropped in, haven't we? Yeah. So on here you've got essentially just time codes which are in every single editor. There's an option to put a time code on stuff, and they've just literally just stuck those in the top corner and given it an arbitrary time and date, and it will tick down as accurately as your watch will. Again, looking at the shape of it, so it has a head, it has shoulders, it has legs, even though it is a bit of a blob, and it looks very much like the guy walking down the corridor. And I think all they've done, he's done that twice, but there's a bit coming up where it pulls him by his leg. Yeah, okay, so his leg, the top of his leg, I think is CG replaced, because it's very different tonally, which is possibly why they've, see there, from the just above his knee to his shoe, compared to the other foot, the detail isn't there in terms of the shape. It's a blob and it's a very different colour. It's the same colour as the noisiness of his jacket, which is possibly why it's hidden so well, is because they're using that kind of digital noise to kind of hide that. But I believe there's probably somebody in that shot where that blob is pulling him, and they've rotoscoped that person out, and they've replaced it with this essentially a blob, which you can, something like Particular in After Effects could render something like that, could produce something like that, or it could be another one of the hotel ghost things where it's literally a hoodie dude and they've just so he's filmed it again and they've cut him out and they have dropped his opacity and they've feathered it and all those kind of things, so he's got a vaguely human shape, vaguely human movements. It's like Crime Stoppers. Have you seen this man? It's a community action trust reward. So there we go. So there's 4 videos, 4 ghosts caught on tape, and I've explained how I think they were done. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. Please leave your message in the comments below. I will look at it. I'll possibly delete it if you're being nasty, because nobody's got time for that. Please like and subscribe. Please have a look for other videos. I'm hopefully going to do one of these a week, and they might not all be reacting to ghost caught on tape. It may be eventually me producing, when I've got time, me producing my own version of these. Give me a follow on Twitter, on Instagram at Mike Makes Films. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your shares, and I'll see you next time. Adios.